What is the difference between a dirty bus stop and a lobster with breast implants? One is a... Hi y'all, Snarky J Cosplay here. You ever have one of those days where you think, I should do this thing? And then usually your own sense of shame and the idea that society will reject said idea causes you to just not do it? Yeah, unfortunately I don't have that because this is my channel. I'm the one that edits everything. So I thought, you know what? I should just tell some of my favorite jokes. These are some jokes that I think are really funny, and they're like eye-rolling, stupid. One of them is so long and terrible, but I really want to share these with you guys. Get comfortable, it's you and me now, we're doing this. So there's this guy. He's a really great cop in a small town, very dedicated. He does traffic stops almost all day on this exact same stretch of road that is his usual spot. It's almost the end of the day and he is conducting traffic stops. This car rolls by, speeding. And so he immediately turns his lights on, gets behind the guy, and the guy pulls over and puts down the window. He says, "Do you have any idea how fast you were going?" And the guy seems a little bit uncomfortable with the question. And when the officer leans over and looks behind him, he sees that he's got the back seat full of penguins. And he says, "Are you insane? What are you doing with all these penguins in the back seat?" And the guy won't really give him an explanation, so he says, "Look, I'm gonna let you off with a warning, but you need to take these penguins back to the zoo right now." And so the guy, of course, says, "Yes, I will take them to the zoo right now." So the cop watches the guy roll off and he stands there satisfied with himself, assuming that this traffic stop that he's conducted will go well and these penguins, whatever they were doing out of the zoo, will end up right back in their natural habitat. So the next day he's parked in the exact same spot and the exact same car rolls by, but again, the guy is speeding. So turns on his lights, conducts a traffic stop, pulls him over, and when the guy puts down the window, the penguins are all still in the back seat, but they're wearing sunglasses. And he's astounded. He looks at the guy and he says, "Are you insane? I told you yesterday to take these penguins back to the zoo, and yet here they are still in your car." And so the guy looks up at the officer and he says, "Yes, officer, I did, but I took them to the zoo yesterday. Today, we're going to the beach."
Stop it. Get some help.
I told my wife I was going to build us a car out of spaghetti. She said I was crazy and told me to stop making stupid comments. You should have seen the look on her face when I drove pasta.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
Why did the farmer name his horse Mayo? Because Mayo neighs.
I hate so much about the things that you choose to be.
A bird was sleeping very cozily in his nest at the top of a pine tree. Suddenly, he heard a lot of noise and the whole tree started to shake. He looked down and saw this massive, fat, and clumsy elephant starting to climb his way up the tree. So he looks down at the elephant and says, "Hey, what the hell are you doing?" The elephant says, "I just want to climb up there and eat some pears." So the bird looks down at him and says, "You idiot, there are no pears up here. This is a pine tree." And the elephant says, "I know, I brought my own pears." It's so bad.
It's time to stop!
My friend keeps telling me to cheer up these days. He said it could be worse. I could be trapped underground in a dirty hole filled with water. I know he means well.
Oh!
This next one is a cowboy joke, so I'm gonna put on a hat for you guys so I can get in the mood. A cowboy rides into a town he's never been in before. He saddles right up to the saloon, hitches his horse on a post outside, and he walks in through the swinging doors. Everybody goes into a nice hush, thinking maybe he's troubled. But he walks up to the bar, has a seat, he orders a drink and a hot meal. And once he's seated, everybody figures he's not here for trouble, doesn't mean any harm, and so they all go back to their business. The cowboy's only there for a little while. He has a couple of drinks, enjoys his hot meal, and by the end of the evening, he stands up, pays his tab without incident, and walks right outside. Except his horse is no longer hitched to the post. And so the cowboy looks at the empty hitching post, and he leans forward and looks down the street in either direction. He doesn't see his horse out there. So he walks back in the bar. He looks around at the patrons, who are now all eyes on him, and he says, "I'm gonna sit down and have myself one more brew." And if by the time I'm done with my drink and I go back outside, my horse hasn't been returned to the post where I left it, I'm gonna have to do what I did in Texas. And I don't like doing what I had to do in Texas. So he sits down, orders another whiskey, and he nurses it nice and slow to give everybody time to put things back to normal. And by the time he goes out there, sure enough, his trusty Pinto is hitched at the post. As he's unhitching the horse and getting ready to head back out, the barkeep just can't hold back his curiosity. He steps out and says, "Hey, what was it you had to do in Texas?" The cowboy turns, looks over his shoulder, and says, "I had to walk home."
Girl, bye.
What is the difference between a dirty bus stop and a lobster with breast implants? One's a crusty bus station and the other is a busty crustacean. No lie, I have told that joke on no less than 6 dates and no man has ever laughed or called me back.
I don't care for Joe.
This next one is long, but I promise you, it's worth it. If I can tell it without laughing, it's worth it. 3 guys are hiking through the woods when they come across a gold lamp. One of them picks it up, rubs it, and out comes a genie. It booms, "You have finally freed me after all these years, so I'm going to grant each of you 3 wishes." The first guy immediately blurts out, "I want $1 billion. Poof. He's now holding a letter that says his bank account now holds $1 billion and 3 cents. The second guy thinks on it a little bit longer and he says, "I want to be the richest man alive." There's a poof and suddenly he's holding paperwork and documentation that proves that his net worth is well over $100 billion. The third guy thinks about it even longer and he says, "I want my left arm to rotate clockwise for the rest of my life." Poof! He's now standing there with his left arm in full rotation clockwise. The genie tells them it's now time for their second wish. The first guy says, "I want to be married to the most beautiful woman on earth." Poof! There's now an absolute dime piece holding onto this guy's arm and kissing at his neck. The second guy thinks on it a little bit longer, and he says, "I want to be devilishly handsome and irresistible to every woman on earth." Poof! He's now better looking, presumably irresistible to the point that the first guy's wife is checking him out. The third guy, having witnessed these 2 wishes and thinking about it even longer than the other 2, says, "I want my right arm to rotate counterclockwise until I die." The genie grants the wish, and there he stands there with his arms rotating in opposite directions. At this point, the genie tells them to think very carefully on their third wish. The first guy thinks about it for some time, and then he eventually says, "I never want to become sick or injured. I want to remain in perfect health until the day I die." Poof! His acne is cleared, his back doesn't hurt, his knees don't bother him anymore. The second guy, having witnessed this, thinks about it even longer, and he says, "I never want to grow old, I want to stay 29 forever." Poof! He looks younger already. The third guy smiles triumphantly and says, "I want my head to nod back and forth incessantly until the day I die." Poof! His arms are now still rotating counterclockwise, and in addition, his head is nodding. The genie wishes them good luck, disappears, and the 3 friends eventually part ways. Many years later, they meet again, and they start talking about how things have been going. The first guy is absolutely ecstatic. He says, "I've invested the money I got over and over so many times that nobody in my family will probably ever have to work again. My wife is an absolute freak in the sheets, and I've never gotten so much as even a cold in all these years." The second guy smiles and says, "Well, I build charities worldwide with just a fraction of my wealth. I'm still the richest guy alive, I'm revered for my good deeds, I haven't aged a day since we last met, and yes, first guy, your wife is in fact a freak in bed." The third guy walks in, still flailing his arms around and nodding his head, and says, "Guys, I think I fucked up."
No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
If you expected any of these jokes to be good, that is 100% on you. If you follow this channel at all, you should know what kind of sense of humor I have. You should have known that these were all gonna be fucking dumb. But I hope you enjoyed them. I hope you enjoyed sitting down with me for a few minutes and just sharing a few laughs or eye rolls. Maybe you're considering unsubscribing. That's okay. I'm glad you were here anyway. And that's all from me. I've been Snarky J. Thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. For more Snarky J, be sure to check me out on Instagram, and if you'd like to support me, this channel, and my content creation, do check out and consider subscribing to my Patreon for exclusive photo shoot sets and cosplay content. I will add links to all of those in the description below, and let me know your thoughts on these terrible jokes I've just read to you in the comments below.